Yeah, okay, so, no, I mean, I'll just repeat it, I'll repeat it for the camera. And then, you know, if you got some questions, we can go from there. So, what's the best way to buy a multifamily community and what's the worst way? Right? That's pretty much what you're asking. And so I'm just gonna really boil it down to really two things, just for our conversation, because I see this happen more and more, especially as the market heats up. So as we're talking about this, and as I'm recording this, the market's pretty hot. It's really a seller's market more than a buyer's market. There's not a lot of motivated sellers out there. So a lot of what I'm going to tell you has a lot to do with that. So let me start with the worst way you could be buying a property, especially multifamily property, is through the conventional brokerage marketing of the properties. That's the worst way to do it. And this isn't really I'm not picking on real estate brokers necessarily. I mean, I am one, okay? So I'm not picking on real estate brokers. But what I am doing is saying from a buyer's standpoint, me, you know, it's a bad situation to be in, because the typical marketing process today, especially for larger communities, is let's put it out there, let's unpriced, and let's get as many offers and letters of intent in at one time, have them compete against each other, and then whoever comes out on top wins. So typically what will happen is they'll get in touch with you, the brokers will, and say, hey, I've got ABC property for sale. You'll get the information, you'll look at it, you'll have interest in it. You want to buy it. And then what will happen is there's you and then there's 50 other guys looking at, thinking of, and considering the same thing. Then they'll have what they call a call for offers. So what that means is you get your letter of intent done and you send them a letter of intent or a purchase agreement too, that basically says here's how much we're willing to pay for this property based on the information that we have and if we've looked at a few units too. Well, what they'll do is they'll get, let's just say 10 of these letters of intent or offers in. So you and 10 guys now, or 12 or even more sometimes, are competing to buy it. All right? Now what they'll do is they'll say, okay, we got these 12, let's take the top 5, let's take the top 6, and let's have these guys compete against each other. So then they do another round, okay, and they basically say, now submit the best you can, the best of the best. What you submitted for probably wasn't your best offer, now submit your best one. Then after that, there's more competition, and then, you know, they pick a winner, which is usually the highest price. Well, do you think that's any way to get a great deal for you as an investor buyer on a multifamily property? No, it's fucking terrible. It's terrible. It's great for the seller. So if I'm a seller, that's what I want. But buyer, it's terrible. Because you're going to be overpaying because you want to get the property more than the other guy, typically. It's almost like an auction in a way. So it's a bad way to go about it. So that's the worst way to buy, is compete with others, try to climb to the top, and win the bidding. That's the worst way. Like I said, great for the seller. Right? It's great for the seller, but it's the worst thing for you. So that's the worst. Now let's talk about the best. The best is the dichotomy of that. You talk to the seller one-on-one. It's just you and the seller. Maybe there's one or two other people that are kind of thinking they want to buy it, that the sellers maybe talk to, that have maybe voiced some interest. And then you want to be working with the seller, basically with the seller and getting a deal done. That's the best way. And there's a lot less, obviously, competition. You're bypassing a lot of the, all the marketing frenzy that goes on that tends to drive prices up, especially in a market that is a seller's market. So how do you do that? How do you have that conversation with the seller? How do you get to that point? And the bad news is, and it is bad news, you've got to continually, diligently work at contacting the sellers. Yourself. And it's basically, hey, Frank, I know you own the Crown Point apartments. I own about X amount of units, or we're looking at buying X amount of units. We'd like to own the Crown Point apartments one day. Can we have a conversation about that? And more than likely they're going to say no, not right now, not ready. I mean, if they do say yes, consider yourself lucky at that point. But if they say no, not right now, then okay, if and when the time comes, here's my contact information, here's how you email me, here's my phone number, I'm going to follow up with an email. Can I get your email address? You follow up with an email, thanks for talking to me. If the situation comes up and you want to have a chat, please get in touch with me. And then you continue to follow up, at least 4 or 5 times a year. That's how you do it. And so we've used this method to pick up tens of millions of dollars worth of apartment communities this way, getting owners to sell to us this way, where we're getting much better pricing, much better deals, closings are easier, and at the end of the day, it's the right way for us to buy these properties. But you've got to do the shoe leather work. Okay? Yeah, you can have a broker represent you. So, our brokerage company, we represent a lot of people out looking to buy stuff. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But know that, the really good deal many times doesn't come out of that unless there's some luck involved in it. Not always, but most of the time. It's better you're burning your shoe leather, contacting those folks that own the properties that you think you want to own, and doing it consistently. That's really all it comes down to. Now, does that mean it's going to work every time? No. Because a lot of these folks, they know what's going on out there. Why in the hell wouldn't I have 20 people fighting over it, bidding on it, than just talking to you? There's that. But there's also a hell of a lot of owners that don't want to deal with that shit. They don't want to have 12 brokers parade in their office, giving them their PowerPoint presentations and tell them all the great things that they can do and how much money they can make them. They'd rather have a sit-down conversation with you and maybe 2 other people and see if they can get a deal done at a price they think is acceptable. And it's because of that is the reason why you want to work on that. Because if you're sitting back waiting to get emails, hoping from real estate agents or real estate brokers, hoping that that's going to be how you're going to find your deal, okay? And I'm talking bigger properties here. This is less the case with 12 unit, 24, 36, 72. This is less the case because using those resources pays off many times that way. But the bigger deals, 100 units, 200 units or more, you really need to be thinking shoe leather here. Because the other way, so if you think that getting emails from the big brokerage, the big national companies, that X property's for sale, and it's your lucky day, and you're going to get a great deal on it when you buy it, that's total horseshit, because that's not going to happen. Unless you get extremely lucky, it's going to be you and 12 people bidding on it, and then the top person wins. That's no way to buy a property, in my opinion. There's no way to buy a property. I don't want to be competing against anybody. I want to be the competition, just me. Okay? So, does that answer your question? Okay, great. Awesome.